Hello friends, and welcome to Fishcraft. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so very much. Fishcraft is my lovely little survival series that I've got going here, where I really just do a lot of fishing. However, today's video is going to be slightly different in that while I'm also doing my fishing and stuff, my whole video is going to be me building all sorts of little organic builds throughout my little apothecary castle. And when I say little, I do of course mean about the size of these ginormous sunflowers behind me there. So they're not really going to be that small, but compared to the castle at least, they're going to be smaller than normal. So I am very excited to get started on today's episode. We've got a lot of different organic builds that we need to get started on, because in my last video, I said that for anybody who would like to have a plant or a flower of the sorts attached to the big old castle, all they had to do was leave a comment saying what it is that they wanted to have added. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be adding a bunch of different flowers and probably a bunch of trees as well. And at the tippy top of my to-do list is a lovely little fly trap, because we got a comment from Fallowfoot on our last video asking if they could get a fly trap over here, and I think that's a lovely idea. The only thing is I've never really seen a fly trap in person, or I've definitely never built one before, so this is going to be certainly a new experience for me. But I will do my best, and we're just going to do a little tiny twirl. And there we go. We got some lovely little fly traps here, though I will admit that they are definitely they're quite spooky. I do still absolutely love them, and it took me a really long time to make them, and I am so proud of them. They definitely are the spookiest things I've made in this series so far, and my goodness, look at them. They're so beautiful. They're a bit scary. They get some sharp little teeth in there, but that's because, you know, when you're doing fly trap stuff, usually that they've got those little teeth furs inside of them. I did have to use reference images after all, and all of them, they all were like spiky and stuff. So that's kind of what we went for here. So we've got a total of 3 little fly traps all next to each other. So we've got the parent one, and then we've got the 2 smaller ones that are sprouting off of the side as just a little smaller one. So we've got the tiniest one there. We've got a second smallest one here, and then the big one there. And definitely the biggest one is my favorite, because I feel like for these types of organics and stuff, the bigger they are, the more detail you can put into them. So I am quite happy with these. Also, I did forget to mention that it has been 4 days since I got started on the fly trap, and it didn't take 4 days to do the fly trap. I was in a situation where I wasn't able to use my microphone or anything, so I couldn't get any recording done. But I have been doing my fishing and stuff, and my building and everything, so I do hope that's okay, and I'm really sorry. That being said, I have not been slacking. During the 4 days, I have been building, I have been fishing, I have been very, very busy. And it's been a lovely time just being able to put my head down and just get started on all kinds of different projects that I usually would have been able to put off for quite a while, because, you know, usually during the week and stuff, I spend a lot of time recording and editing and making sure everything is how I feel like it should be. And whenever I don't have to do all that, I feel like I can get a whole lot more done. At least in terms of like building and stuff. All my fishing and stuff has all been very regular. It's been nothing out of the ordinary. However, this is what we've been able to do in the past 4 days, or I guess it's been, oh gosh, wait, no, it's been 6 days. Oh my gosh. Time sure is flying. Right, so it's been 6 days now since I started the fly trap stuff, because I started this on Saturday, almost immediately after my last video went up. So we've got so much stuff done now. So first things first, as usual, we have the fly trap here, which was suggested by Fallowfoot, and is definitely the most prominent flower over here. Is a fly trap a flower? I don't know what the words are, I'm sorry, but I do really love it, and I think I did okay for it being my first ever kind of spooky build. The teeth are a bit, the teeth, they're a bit, but I still had a really good time. And also, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention, hold on. So I did add a little tiny lizard on top of the fly trap. Maybe not a lizard, it's a little chameleon. I don't know if you could tell from the eyes on the cut copper over there, but I thought I did pretty good with the little lizard. That was really fun. I added all sorts of dragonflies and stuff around, because I wanted the fly trap to make sense at least somewhat, right? So I've got one little dragonfly over here. We've got another one on the smaller one over here. They're all different colors, by the way. So we've got an orange one. We've got a little tiny red one here with the little paws sticking out. And then we've got a green one floating off in the distance over there. very cute, and they're all slightly different in their own way. And then we've got another one all the way down here that is just a little tiny blue one, tiny little cute one. These little dragonflies were a lovely time to make, and they are still my first time making these little dragonflies. I also am not afraid to admit that these took me hours to make. And not because of the resources that they required for this, but because I genuinely had no idea how to make a little dragonfly on such a small scale. But I had a fantastic time doing it, and they're so cute. They're so cute, these little guys. So while these are different from the flytrap, I would consider them all part of the same build, because they all exist together, right? So we've got the flytrap because of the dragonflies, or the dragonflies because of the flytrap. I'm not exactly sure, or even if dragonflies really work for fly traps or anything like that, but it's okay. So that is the little fly trap, and I thank you so much, Fallowfoot, for all of your lovely suggestions, and I do hope you like it. And with that, we are good to move on to the next part of the video, which is another build that I was able to do in between my little clips and stuff, and that is this lovely little blue orchid straight in front of the Apothecary Castle entrance way here. And it definitely is the one that gave me the most grief, because it's at an angle, and it's also diagonal. And I feel like it was really difficult for me to try and make some form of a three-dimensional sort of flower here. So this kind of was the best I could do. I went through probably like 3 or 4 different variations of this, and I kept on having to tear it all down and restart, and it was really difficult. But this is what I settled on, and I do think it looks okay, and it's quite colorful for being just a blue orchid. I was using a reference image, and it had a lot of yellow and a lot of purple, and I really loved it, so I wanted to try and capture all those different colors in here, but I don't know how well I executed that, but I did my best, and that is all that matters. Definitely what I think gave me the most issues with this is trying to create multiple different layers of some of the bigger flowers here, while also trying to make it look like it's not so noisy, right? So this I think looks okay for what it is. But I originally had some of these flowers here, maybe like 2 or 3 times bigger, and I tried to have it like layered and then get skinnier as we went up. But then it just completely blocked out the stem. And then it was just a giant whiplash of blue, and it was way too much. So I did end up having to completely tear it all down and retry a couple different times, and I am happy with what we've settled on here. Also, thank you to Blazer for Hire and Lucky Lane Zero for the orchid suggestion. I do hope you like it, and I thank you so much. And here it is from a distance. I do still think it looks good. I think I might have added one too many of the flowers. I think maybe it would have looked better if I had just the one blue orchid here, and then maybe a different flower on the left side here, but I'm sure it'll be fine. We've got plenty of room for plenty more flowers. This has been so much fun doing my practicing of the organics and stuff. Oh, also we got some little starter trees popping up over here. We got some starter trees in the works. We got one of them over here, and we got one of them over here. And there's one thing I'm working on in terms of trees, and it is the wingspan of them. So, or the wingspan? Is it spanned? Spanned with a D or with a N? Wingspan. I've been working on how far and how wide the trees actually reach out. So I want way more coverage and a whole lot more shadows. So I'm trying to make them stick out farther, and I don't know how to do that. I'm trying. As you can see with the crazy wonk that these branches have. I'm figuring it out. I just wanted to share my progress. So I have learned that dirt scaffolding, and I guess regular scaffolding, is definitely helpful in this, because dirt is temporary and wood is forever, for the most part. So technically they're both temporary, but it's okay. Use dirt to try and work out what it is you want to do first. And if you don't like it, it is very easy to tear down and readjust. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I have also officially stopped using FreeCam, and I don't really have any particular reason for doing that, other than maybe it'll help me get a bit more mechanically better at taking steps back and just all around movement in the game itself. I feel like FreeCam adds a bit too much freedom for survival, and it is incredibly helpful for saving rockets and everything. However, I just feel like it would be better for my long-term playability or something, or I feel like I would get better at the game faster if I didn't have it. I don't know, that's a weird opinion to have, but I have not been using it, and I've been having a great time. And since it is raining, we are going to do just a little bit of fishing, so 2 seconds. Welcome back from the little fishing break. We got a bunch of fish caught, although not nearly as much as I would have hoped, but that's alright. The rain didn't last very long, but we did what we could. Fishing related stuff aside, right after we did the blue orchids, we moved on to a little flower called a gardenia, or I think that's what it's called. I probably should have checked how it was pronounced, but I think it's called a gardenia. It's this big old white flower behind me. It looks like a big egg as well. We just made a giant egg. A sideways, sunny side up. I love it. Anyway, we got a comment from somebody named Andy Anonymous that said that their dad's favorite flower was a gardenia. So that's what we went and added. I did really like doing this. I feel like my favorite part of this flower was doing the leaves, because that felt like the most simple part. And my least favorite definitely is these diagonal petals here. This middle part was difficult to do, but for some reason my brain really struggles with trying to make something go both at a diagonal and also outwards. I don't know how to quite explain this, but trying to get these petals here to look right while also going at a diagonal was absolutely the hardest part. Here, let's look at it from a slightly different angle. There we go. Oh, I can zoom, I forgot. There we go. I do think it turned out really good. I did have to improvise in that a gardenia has, I think, a few more petals than this one does, and it's kind of like in a spiral. But I think this is the best I could do without making it look like just a giant mess of blocks. So I am sorry, and I am still very new to building like organic shapes and stuff, so I'm still working out the details as I go. And I do hope you like it. So thank you, Andy, for your lovely comment. And also, I added the spider lilies as well. So Andy also said that the gardenias were their dad's favorite, but if I wanted a challenge, I could do a little flower called a spider lily. Now, spider lilies come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes, and the first one that I got from Google was one that was red. And after a little bit of research, they said that the red spider lilies usually are like ill omens, or like signs that something maybe not the greatest is gonna happen to you pretty soon. So I decided against the red ones. So what I did was I found a lovely little spider lily called a beach side spider lily, or a beach spider lily? I'm not really sure. But I felt like that one maybe more accurately represented what I do and like how the series is so far, with there being bunches of water and stuff. So that is what we added. We made ourselves a lovely, beautiful little beach spider lily, which was really fun to do actually. I particularly enjoyed adding the little droopy bits on the corner. I did have to count to make sure that I had the correct amount of the petals here, and I do think it was about 6 or 3 per side or something like that. Same with the little pollen holders. I really don't know plant terminology, it would appear. I also struggled really badly trying to add some form of color to this flower, because it is very white. And in the pictures, it showed that the stem kind of went from a lime green to the white of the petals very gradually, and I didn't know how to do that really, so I just went and did a terracotta to sandstone to mushroom stem to wool gradient. But in between, I added a little bit of glow lichen to help soften the transition just a little bit right here. And I do think it worked out okay. It adds a touch of yellow to the stem where I feel like it definitely would need it. There we go. This is a bad angle. I can't find any. There we go. Here's a better angle. So I do hope you like it, and thank you so much, Andy, for your lovely comments, and also happy birthday to your dad. And with that being said, we are good to move on to the next part of the video, which thankfully is something that's going to be even more difficult than just tiny little plants. It's going to be some big old trees, because as well as me needing to add some more trees as decoration to this area, I did also get a comment that said I should add a tree that is called a... I forgot. A Wisteria Tree, or Wisteria? Wisteria? What? Wisteria? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of stuff. I usually only just read the words, so I'll probably never learn what the actual pronunciation is. I'll just call it a wisteria, and we will call it good. Right, so this tree, this is going to be unlike anything I have ever made before, and I honestly, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't know how it's gonna work. I'm so confused. So, this wisteria tree, it has, like, purple/pink leaves. So imagine this, but a whole tree. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I imagine I'm gonna be using probably a bunch of glass, and like maybe some sea lanterns or the pearlescent frog lights, maybe mixed in with a little bit of end rods and maybe some cherry leaves or something like that. But I am really excited. I've got 2 trees I need to build over here behind me. I've got these 2. I've got this one and I've got this one, and then we need to figure out where we want the wisteria tree to go, as well as probably in our next episode what I really want to get started on is adding one more ginormous tree completely attached to the very top of the apothecary, sprouting straight out the top with a big old wingspan, and it's gonna be lovely. I just don't think I have time for it right now because it's a bit too big for what I could do right now. So instead, I think we're going to be building 3 trees instead of one big one. The only issue I seem to be having right now is that I can't really figure out where I want to add the wisteria tree. I know I wanted to have it inside of the Manian Gardens, but I wasn't sure really where. Or the Manian Gardens, by the way, are the sunflower fields surrounding the apothecary here. So this whole outer ring. I just don't know where I want to put the tree at. Maybe I can have it directly in the middle on this side, but then you won't see it very much from the front. Then again, if I put anything else in the front, then it'll be way too crowded. So I feel like I want to give this tree enough space to actually be seen. So I think definitely right here is a good spot for it. How much space do I have to work with over here? Yeah, I think this could work. If I put the trunk here and then kind of have the roots draped down the side and stuff, I feel like we can make it nice and big over here. Yeah, this definitely is gonna work. All right, here we go. So I think we're gonna go grab our dirt shulker boxes and we're gonna get started on putting out the basic plan, the floor plan for the trunk and stuff. There we go. All right. What do we think about this? So this is my very basic outline of what I think the trunk for this little hysteria tree or wisteria tree, hysteria tree. I don't think that's right. This is about how I want it to go. Maybe I could have one more going through the middle and then like to the left even more. Maybe I could have it taller. I'm not really sure. But this is definitely the easiest part of building trees for me, is getting the trunks. I for some reason, I struggle so badly with the leaves every single time. And I have to do the leaves out of a bunch of different colored blocks of like glass and stuff now, so this is going to be doubly difficult. However, I will figure it out, and I'll do my best. I definitely think I'm going to be using glass panes for this, because the wisteria trees, I'm noticing that they're very wumpy, so that they flop down a lot. So maybe I could use some of the glass panes to have them kind of imitate those sloopy leaves a little bit, you know? So we'll try and figure something out, but in the meantime, we're just gonna do a little tiny twirl, and ta-da! We got ourselves a cute little tree. Although I will say that it does seem to resemble quite a bit a cherry tree, and that mostly is because I could not figure out how to build with non-transparent blocks as leaves. It just doesn't seem to work, especially for the pink blocks. Now I could have used the whole like pink wool and the glazed terracotta and the concrete powder with like the string under it, but that would have been way too much. Yeah, I definitely think I could have worked with the pink concrete powder and the string and stuff, but since this is on such a larger scale, it would have taken so many resources that I just don't have anymore. So we just defaulted to the cherry leaves, and I do think it still came out looking good. I do see the major flaw in this tree though. So my issue is it seems like scale right now. I'm not very good at building big trees, and I'm not the greatest at smaller trees either, but they're definitely easier. So I feel like if I wanted to make a tree that was okay, I think I should have tried to stick to around about this scale here. This seems like a really good in between for like the medium-sized tree and the small tree. But doing the giant trees like the ones we've done before, like this one over here, I just can't seem to make the leaves feel fluffy enough to feel like an actual tree. So then every time I look at it from a distance, it just looks all choppy and like just like it got TNT dropped on it or something. And I really don't know how to fix it. I've watched lots of tutorials on how to do leaves and placing and stuff, but goodness gracious, I just don't know how to fix this. I've been trying. That's not to say that this looks bad by any means. I do still think it looks okay. And with that, we do still have 2 more trees we need to try and get constructed. They're definitely not gonna be cherry trees this time. I think we're just gonna do regular oak leaves. Turns out, you know, I'm not very good at building wisteria trees, but I gave it my best shot, so thank you so very much for the comment, the Jade Phoenix. I appreciate you so much. Alright, I've got 1 hour to do some leaf placing, so I'm gonna get started on that, and also here is all of my fishing that I've done for the past week or so. Definitely not nearly as much as I feel like I could have done, but I've been very wrapped up in building these giant flowers and stuff, so I think compared to the rest of the last couple videos, I might be slightly behind. But here's the fishing. I'm gonna go place some leaves now. And the little fishing time lapse, that was a really good time. I finished the trees not too long ago. I've just been taking a little tiny fishing break in between my leaf placing, which was definitely a struggle. It's taken me quite a while to make it to where I am right now, which I am hoping is the finished product. So for the main tree, we have this one right here. It certainly feels fluffier. I just started leaving a whole lot more air in there than what I felt like I should. I do still have a lot I need to do in terms of like leaf removal, because I did go through and I just spammed big circles through here, and then I went through Tilly and I tried to leave them in the little plus pattern that I usually do for my terraforming and stuff. So hopefully that translates into the leaves here. I still don't know what else I could do to make it appear more fluffy, other than just to keep on adding a million leaves and then just rip them all out. So this is the better tree. I do quite like how this one came out, but it is also the third tree I've done today, so that might have something to do with it. And then the second tree I did today is this one over here. It's a little bit shorter and it's a bit wider, but I do think it still looks okay for you know, a tree, I guess. It still looks like a tree. I just wish I could do trees a little better. For the time being, I will say that this is a good tree, and we are all finished with the trees for today. My hands hurt, so I think I'm gonna go back over to my dock, and I'm gonna do some more fishing, because that is all I've been able to think about this week. That and trying to figure out how I'm gonna get myself a happy ghast, because that update came out a while ago and I still haven't got one. So I think my next video I'm gonna try and get a happy ghast. Oh, also, look, I laid out some plans as well for the future to help wrap up the Fishcraft stuff. So this is what I've got so far. So more giant trees, more big plants, better shorelines. I've got to fix all of these and then do a nice shoreline go in this direction to close it all off. Then we're gonna have a giant cliffside, which is going to be right here, I think. I want it to be at least 3 or 4 times taller than this point right here. So I want it to be like farther up here and then kind of taper downwards to this lovely little tree here. So we've got like a little cliffside and we can look off of it and stuff. Kind of like how you should on a cliff. This is not a cliff. This is just a rocky hill or something. And then on the top of the hill, I wanted to have like some sort of like abandoned like apothecary overseer robot that just is like sat up there kind of overlooking everything. Since all has been so well in the land, they've grown dormant and overgrown by the leaves and everything. I don't know, I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So that is something that I might want to do in the future, and it is nighttime. I am going to sleep. So that definitely is something I might want to do in the future. I've just got to try to start planning some stuff out so that we can make that work. However, I feel like for the landscaping and the shoreline and stuff, it's best to not plan that kind of... Oh, it's best not to kind of plan that stuff out, because I feel like if I just spend 100 years in a creative world, I'm not really going to get much better at terraforming than if I were to just straight free flow all of it. So that's what we're going to do with all this. We're going to free flow cliffs, we're going to free flow shorelines, trees, the whole thing. And with that, I do believe we have just about run out of time for today's episode. We got a bunch of stuff done. We got some blue orchids behind me, we got sunflowers, we got the giant fly traps, we got some cute little dragonflies, all kinds of trees, fluffy tree I might add. We got a gardenia, we got a spider lily, more dragonflies all over the place, a wisteria tree. That's gonna be a hard word for me to remember, and a whole lot of fishing. So, by the end of my last video, I was at a whopping 277,000 fish caught. And after an entire week, I am now at a current 282,942. I think that's pretty good. I haven't finished updating my science here, but I was pretty close. And with that, I do believe I have unfortunately run out of time for today's episode. So I thank you all so very much for watching this episode of Fishcraft. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.